here we are. My name is Joseph, and I am here to provide a deep dive of this Kings Warriors first round matchup as a preview. As a Kings fan, I would label myself as an unbiased Kings fan. Kind of what I mean is I'm pretty realistic. Some would say pessimistic, but I'm pretty realistic in terms of expectations. And I think to be a Kings fan, you kind of have to be either overly optimistic or overly pessimistic to keep watching for as long as we have. Some background about me: I've been watching for almost 20 years at this point. I knew about 0102, but I think the first year that I seriously started watching was 2005, 2006, which was actually the last time the Kings made the playoffs. That team had Mike Bibby, Brad Miller, Kevin Martin. We won one game against the Spurs, and then they absolutely washed us. Other background is I listen to everything when it comes to NBA, Kings. In terms of like local stuff, I listen to Carmichael Dave. I used to listen to Doug Christie and Grant Napier before Grant Napier got canceled. It's okay. And then, I listen to everything. Even Deuce and Mo. Shout out Deuce and Mo. That's they're dope. They're freaking lit. In terms of NBA stuff, I don't watch ESPN that much. I'll watch clips, whatever. But I listen to JJ Redick. Podcasts are incredible. Through the Wire, All the Smoke, just everything that it comes to NBA, I just freaking love. All that is to say, I think I have a very different point of view than most Kings fans. Let's get into this series. And so let's start off with the storylines. And so for these storylines, I think the biggest one that people are zoning in on is this battle for Northern California. I think, as we know, the Warriors have won 4 championships in the past 8 years. Is that what it is? They have just been absolutely dominant. And the Kings have just been terrible. This is their first playoff series in 16 years. First time making the playoffs. You know how, oh my gosh, it's been insane how bad we have been. But I think something that people don't notice in that time is that a lot of those years were really spent on just trying to keep the team in Sacramento. There was the DeMarcus Cousins era. And then once that was over, we brought in Fox, and we've had one good team while he's been here. This is the best version of the De'Aaron Fox Kings. And in that trend, the Kings are kind of on the come up. This is their first good year in hopefully a long run. And this is potentially one of the last years of the Warriors at their peak. They won last year, but in the way the contracts work, things inspiring, the players around the Warriors and how the CBA is changing, how you get new players, stuff like that, it's going to be hard for the Warriors to compete in these next couple seasons if Steph Curry, Klay, and Draymond start regressing. But with that being said, it is still those 3 Hall of Famers on the same team. And they won it last year, which is insane. They won it last year with most of this same roster. If there's anything that has changed, it has been some of the vets that have been role players that have not returned. Bielitsa, Otto Porter, those two played huge parts in them winning last year. But they still have most of that championship team, and we're only 1 year removed. You could make excuses that, they were injured for most of this year, so that there is a legit excuse of why they're the 6th seed. The Kings are the 3rd seed. They should be the higher seed. They should be favored as the higher seed. But as of right now, all the national media, betting sites, whatever, they all have Warriors favored heavily. And I think that has to do with just the view of this big brother, little brother complex between the Warriors and the Kings. And I think, and it also has to do with just location wise, why that is. I remember in 2018, 2019, the Kings were having their first good season with De'Aaron Fox. We had Marvin Bagley's first year, Bogdan Bogdanovic's, I think, second year. And then Buddy Hield was actually playing out of his mind at the time. We were a good looking team. We ended up with 39 wins that year as the 9th seed, missing the playoffs, and this was before the play-in. But we were on the come up. We had Dave Yeager as a coach. I loved that team. I've loved watching that team. And we got swept by the KD Warriors during that regular season 4-0. But I remember every single game was close. And after one of those, in a post-game interview, KD said he loved what was going on up in Sacktown. He loved what we were doing. And he just enjoyed the steps that we were taking as an organization. And just something like that kind of gives this little brother complex. And then not only that, the Kings have just been terrible as a franchise for almost 2 decades. Boy, damn, it's been rough. But I think because of that, there are a lot of like young adults and kids who have only known the Kings as a trash franchise. And of course, if you're going to see this Warriors juggernaut, absolute juggernaut of an organization dominate for a decade, regardless of the season, why would you choose the Kings? We can get into that. Besides the 3 seed, I think the reason why there should be any faith in the Kings is that the fact of the matter is, this is not the same Kings team, organization, everything. They changed everything in basically 3 years. We brought Monte McNair as our GM. He hit 3 drafts in a row. He hit on the Sabonis trade. He helped bring in Mike Brown just this year. And we have a completely new roster that isn't even truly aware of how bad we have been as an org. They know about it. They're told about it and all that stuff, but they haven't lived through the irrelevancy of this Kings organization. So as fans, to us, it's like, bro, we have been so bad for so freaking long. But to these players, it is like, we're coming in new, fresh. I just want to win. Here we are having success. Like, yeah, I get the drought. But to them as players, it's like, I'm just trying to win a chip, bro. I don't know any about all that history stuff. I am just trying to win. And so they don't really understand. That's not in the back of their mind. All that history is not in the back of their mind. They're just balling, bro. And I think that gives us like really this big fighting chance. I think if we go through this roster by itself, we have Sabonis, who is going to be all NBA this year. If he's not, that is absolute robbery. He is the 3rd best center in the NBA this year. But he is an all NBA center right now. He does everything, almost everything for us on offense. De'Aaron Fox has been absolutely clutch. He's been this way ever since I've watched him. He had a terrible rookie season. But he is, I've seen it for however long he's been in the league, 6 years, something like that. He has been good enough to compete in the playoffs, and his play style is fit for the playoffs. And not only that, he is a king, bro. He is the definition of a Sacramento King. He has been here. He understands how bad the drought is and how irrelevant we are. He's probably the only player who's been here this long. Harrison Barnes has been here for 4 years. But he's been just a true vet. I think some other newcomers, it's Kevin Huerter, he's really only known competitive basketball. Like, when he was on the Hawks, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. He had an insane Game 7 in the second round, I think. He's just competed, absolutely competed. Keegan Murray, he's a complete rookie. Everything is new to him. Malik Monk, in some ways, he's a journeyman, But that man is like, based off of the interviews, all he wanted to do was come join his friend De'Aaron Fox and just hoop, bro. And that's all they're here to do. They're here to hoop, and they do not care about the history, the drought, who the hell is in front of them. They're just trying to compete. And then most importantly, Mike Brown. Mike Brown is completely new to the situation. He has seen Sac not be great, but I think the fact of the matter is, like, if you're not within the organization, that's not your focus. He just knows winning because he was on. He's coached LeBron. He's coached Kobe. He was on all of these Warriors teams that won these 4 chips. So all he knows and to understand is to just, he knows what a good org does, in which everyone's aligned from top to bottom, and you build winning habits and just compete. And so with all of this new, with all of this change, this is not the same Kings organization that all of these fans understand. And I think the main point is, this team, the people on this team know about the Kings' irrelevancy, but they don't identify with it. And that's the change. And so let's get into the basketball, the actual basketball of it. Personally, I think this is an even matchup. Straight up. I don't think one team is better than the other when it comes to, I basically, every single game is a toss-up. Both will play really fast pace, or they want to play fast pace. That's actually both of their favorite types of playing. Both have motion offenses that are really tough to stop. I think Stan Van Gundy went on a Thinking Basketball podcast, and he talked about how, like, when you're a head coach in the NBA right now, or the past 5-6 years, you have, in training camp, you go over 2 types of defenses. You spend 1 or 2 days going over defending traditional pick and roll defense, which covers 29 teams in the NBA. And then you spend another day going over trying to defend the Warriors because they are so different than everybody else. And then so that begs the question, why hasn't anybody copied the Warriors offense? And I think the fact of the matter is, you need the shooters to do it. And you need the personnel to be able to do it. I think the Kings this year have been kind of a perfect blend of, they bring in Mike Brown. They have 2 incredible playmakers in De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. And they bring in 3 40% shooters from 3. Oh, they have 3 40% shooters from 3 when it comes to Harrison Barnes, Herter, and Keegan. And so this is just it's a different team. It's new. And so with that personnel, we were able to take what the Warriors had, implement our own style, and kind of run with it. I think that's kind of the nuance that a lot of people are missing, is that the Kings implement parts of the Warriors offense, but it's a little different. Thinking Basketball, the YouTube channel, actually has a great video that goes over the Kings offense as a whole. They actually have parts of the Warriors offense. They have parts of the Jokic offense in Denver, from the Denver Nuggets. And they also have parts of, he referenced Steve Nash when it comes to De'Aaron Fox leading the offense. I think there is a little bit of, it's basically every good guard in the league, because De'Aaron Fox can take anybody one-on-one. And I think that is the little difference, is that we have 3 different types of ways of winning on the offensive end. The problem is our defense is bottom 10. And it's been a thing throughout the whole season. That is our weakness. And I think a key to this series is going to be, how does each team manage their own weakness? And for the Kings, it's, can they still shoot the lights out while also bringing up the level of their defense? Well, for the Warriors, they've had a few weaknesses this year. They foul a bunch. They commit a bunch of turnovers. And their defense has not been as elite as it usually is. I think it is 18th in defensive rating. I don't know. Either way, it is not a top half defense. But that may be skewed because they have been so unhealthy throughout this year. They still have all the tools. They have Draymond Green. They have Andrew Wiggins. Kuminga's becoming a good defender. And then most especially Gary Payton II, who is finally healthy, who is playing. And that goes into more points that I have later. But how can each team manage their own weakness? And so ultimately, I think it's an even matchup. So how can we determine who is going to win this series? And ultimately is up to the main separating factors in a playoff series when it is so even. And one of the main ones is who has the best player in the series. And by far, it is Stephen Curry with the Warriors. There's no debate about it. Stephen Curry is that dude. Greatest shooter of all time. He is insane. Every single time you watch that man, it feels like a video game. No ifs, ands, or buts. However, there may be some debate with this, but personally, I think the Kings have the next two best players in the series when it comes to Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, in that order, in my opinion. I think a month ago I said, if the Warriors don't have Andrew Wiggins, Kings win the series. If they have Andrew Wiggins, we lose. It's simple as that. With him coming back from his time away, I don't believe in us. I'm not going to cap. Because Wiggins can go anywhere from second best player in this series down to not even a factor, depending on his shape, how ready he is to play, and what he can do. So that is kind of remains to be seen, especially with the minutes that he's going to play. That's all unknown. If he ends up being the second best player in the series, this is a sweep. It's nothing about it. Yeah, regardless, Warriors have the best player in the series, and that is a huge difference maker. The questions are, can De'Aaron Fox match Stephen Curry's production? Or Sabonis, either one. Can the stars play like stars? Because we have not seen Fox in a playoff series. How is that going to go? Can he play like we've watched him play throughout this whole season? The second differentiating factor is the defense. And as I've outlined, that is the biggest Kings weakness. Historically, like even though the Warriors were not great this season, they have all the defenders. Historically, they have been an elite defense with Draymond Green. You can talk crap about Draymond Green, not like him as a person, not like him as a player, think he's a system player, whatever the case. He is an elite defender, and he leads that defense. That's what makes the Warriors contenders, in my opinion, is the fact that their defense was so insane. And that's led by Draymond Green. I think something in that sense too is that the Warriors have so many people they can send at De'Aaron Fox. They have GB2. They have Wiggins, Kuminga, Dante DiVincenzo. They have so many bodies they can send at De'Aaron Fox. So can De'Aaron Fox either fight through that, or can the role players step up to support him? And so we'll see how that pans out. Even on top of that, Sabonis has Looney they can throw at him. Draymond, again, great defender. And we're going to see how that plays out. For Kings defense-wise, there is not much to really be said. We don't have many defenders on the team. We have our best defenders come off the bench. Kessler Edwards, Davion Mitchell. Everyone in the starting lineup is okay or like not good. Like Sabonis is a pretty mediocre defender. Fox can be good when he wants to be in a way. But he has so much effort on offense. So it comes and goes. And can the wings contain somebody like Andrew Wiggins? If Wiggins has it going, do we have people to send at him? And I don't know. I think that's the biggest thing is that the Kings have so many question marks because we don't know how they're going to perform in the playoffs. We've seen them this year in the regular season, but the playoffs are just it's different. I think something also is that the Warriors foul a ton, but I think that'll probably normalize in the playoffs because they allow more contact, or the refs allow more contact in the playoffs, and so it remains to be seen how that translates and can the Kings play through that contact. I think also for the Kings sense, I think they have a top 10 defense on the road, but a bottom offense or bottom defense at home. We'll see. The third differentiating factor, separating factor, is playoff experience. The Warriors have seen and done it all. They've seen everything, absolutely everything. They've beat the best. They've seen everything, from box and ones from the Raptors in the finals to all of these freaking LeBron-led defenses. They've seen literally everything. And the Kings, this roster in particular, has not been there yet. We've had players who have been there. We have Kevin Huerter, who made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. We have Sabonis, who's made it to the playoffs in the Eastern Conference twice, but got bounced in the first round. We have Mike Brown, who, again, he's done it. He's seen it all. Harrison Barnes even won a championship in the early Warriors. And then we have Dellavedova, the Curry stopper, who won a championship with the Cavs. We have people who have been there, but our main contributors have not. And so for me personally, I am very curious to see how these guys perform and respond in the playoffs, because everybody in NBA history talks about how different the playoffs are. It's a different game. And so I think Fox's game translates. I'm curious to see if Keegan's game translates. We've seen Huerter and we've seen Sabonis, but can they succeed at that level? Can they succeed with this team in particular? Harrison Barnes is who he is. I am afraid of getting the Harrison Barnes that just breaks threes in the corner in big games. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I think a huge X factor to see is can Malik Monk get it going this series? If he's a non-factor off the bench, I think the Kings' chances just absolutely take a nosedive. We need him to perform in order to have a chance. And I think that comes with, role players in general. Can the stars perform like the stars, and can the role players step up to support those stars? And I think the fourth and last one that I pretty much brought up is pressure. Is more so in the sense of referees. We are not going to get the whistle. And I think that's a fact. I think a lot of I wouldn't say a lot, but some of our offense that we pretty much counted on in the regular season was fouls on Fox, Sabonis, and Harrison Barnes. And I don't think we're going to get those same calls, or at least as frequently, in these playoffs. And so can they play through that contact? And can they keep their head level when they don't get those calls? I think the same kind of goes for the Warriors. We've seen Steph freak out, Draymond freak out. But they do it in a way that that they are going to come back and perform. It's more so to manipulate the refs. For us, I'm trying to see, can we still continue to compete when we're not getting those calls that we think we should get? And on top of that, when Draymond does his random crap, antics, whatever the case may be, can we keep a level head and again just continue to compete and push through it? And a third thing is when the Warriors ultimately have that avalanche run, some crazy 16-0 run or something that puts them up 20 in the third, can we respond and chip our way back? Can we keep a level head just keep pushing through, chip our way back. And probably even have a run too. And so these are all things that I am looking forward to. And you can kind of see it. I think my prediction is the Warriors are going to win this series. Warriors are going to win in 6. The way I see it is the Warriors win one of the first 2 games in Golden 1. They win their home games. Kings win 1 when they come back. And then Warriors close it out in 6. However, it's not as cut and dry as that. Because this series is going to be close. And so, is there a path for the Kings to win this series? And I think some of the things that the Kings have going for them that the Warriors do not is the fact that the Kings have several lineups that have played throughout this season in particular, where we've just had coherency. It's just been consistent. Like, our starting 5 has played the most minutes together as a unit than any other lineup in the league. And I think the lineup where you replace Davion Mitchell with Fox, or you replace Fox with Davion Mitchell, is the 3rd or something like that. It's top 5. And so we have players that have played together for most of this season. So they know exactly what each person is going to do. They know how they're going to play, all of that. While the Warriors have been injured, Andrew Wiggins is coming back after not playing basketball in like 2 months. He needs to get into game shape. Gary Payton II has been injured for most of this season too, and he's looked good. But can he still have the same form as he had last year? And so these are all things. It's like the Warriors have to integrate Andrew Wiggins. Jordan Poole's minutes are going to change. Some things are going to change when it comes to this playoffs. And Steve Kerr has to figure some things out kind of on the fly. And not having that kind of consistency makes it difficult on their end. And so if we play exactly the same as we did in the regular season, I think that gives us a pretty good shot. I think another thing that we have going for us is the fact that we have Mike Brown, who just knows the Warriors inside out. They know their tendencies and all this stuff. And so can he communicate those tendencies? And can we execute upon those tendencies that we know about? Kind of on the same note is I absolutely trust this coaching staff to make adjustments when needed. I think everybody talks about how from game to game in a playoff series, adjustments need to be made. Regardless of whether you win or lose a game, adjustments will and should be made for the next game. And I've watched this coaching staff countless times make in-game adjustments in the regular season when that's not really a common thing. And so if they're making in-game adjustments, we can definitely make adjustments from game to game. And I know that is going to happen. And so we have that going for us. I think finally is that the fact of the matter is this Kings team is battle freaking tested, bro. There have been so many insanely close games that they've been through in this series, in this season, and they kept their poise. They competed, and we've had comebacks too, where we'll be down some crazy amount of points with not a lot of time, and they'll just chip, and just be relentless when it comes to coming back and giving themselves a chance at the end of the game. I think that's probably been my favorite part about this team. And so, what is their actual path to winning? And so the first thing is everything in the regular season will translate. If that happens, they find their historical success offensively against this Warriors team. There's no way that they can outscore us. I'm sorry, there's just no way. They have Steph Curry, but we've watched him drop 50 this season, and they still lose. So if we shoot the lights out, De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis have exactly what they usually have, we're winning this series. I don't know in how many games, but we're winning this series. Number 2 is that the Warriors truly not being able to get a road win translates to the playoffs and we win every single home game, we win the series, of course. Mathematically, that's how it works. We get 4 home games, they get 3. I think number 3, which is more realistic. I outlined that scenario where the Kings lose one of the first 2 home games. Let's say they lose game 2, we go into Oracle down 1-1. If they can respond to whatever Mike Brown challenge that they have and get a win on the road, then we're winning this series. I think if they continually put pressure on this Warriors team throughout the series, it's going to be tough. I think finally it's going to be, this kind of goes hand in hand with all that other stuff, but role players showing up. I think a lot of these role player type NBA players talk about how they know about role players that have turned a series. JJ Redick talked about a ton. Steve Kerr is one. He's an actual role player that turned around a final series. And so it is, can we get a game where a role player just grabs a game that we should not win? So can Herter, Monk, Trey Lyles, Davion Mitchell, can somebody have one of those types of games that gets us an unexpected win? And so these are all paths for us to get there. And so although we are underdogs as the higher seed, we got a puncher's chance. I'm excited to see how this plays out. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. And let's enjoy this series.